The first time she saw him blink in confusion, she nearly toppled over in shock, though she quickly steadied herself on the railing of the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the reinforced glass, but what held her attention was entirely terrestrial. He was explaining something, a human process that she had only vaguely heard about in interspecies cultural briefings. But the moment the words left his mouth, the sparkle of excitement in her eyes flickered into something akin to incredulity. She was slender and almost ethereal, her long, elven-style ears twitching in rhythm with her growing disbelief, a subtle indicator of her internal amusement. She leaned slightly closer, pretending to peer at the stars while secretly scrutinizing every twitch of his eyebrows, every hesitant gesture, every awkward pause. "Wait," she said, her voice melodic but tinged with disbelief. "You mean this is how humans reproduce?" He cleared his throat, a faint blush creeping up his neck. "Well, yes. Essentially, though." His hands moved in careful, cautious gestures, trying to illustrate the process with minimal embarrassment. "It's organic. Involves, bodily contact, hormones, and—" She cut him off with a gasp that sounded like laughter, though it carried a sharp note of astonishment. "Bodily contact, hormones, all of this chaotic. You humans actually—" She paused, trying to restrain herself from laughing outright, but the corners of her lips twitched in denial of her composure. "Why so much flailing? Is this really necessary?" He rubbed the back of his neck and glanced at the deck's transparent railing, as if it might somehow rescue him from her scrutiny. It's complicated," he said. "And yes, I suppose some of it seems, well, chaotic if you're used to a more orderly system." She tilted her head, ears flicking forward like delicate antennae. "Orderly system? You mean your own species method is considered orderly?" Her voice was incredulous, and yet she couldn't hide a soft chuckle. "I thought the humans were supposed to be the clever, thinking ones, and yet this looks like a theatrical performance." He grimaced, realizing that she had both literal and metaphorical senses of the term performance in mind. "I guess it could look that way," he admitted. "We tend to involve more than just logic when it comes to, reproduction." Her laughter rang out, musical and contagious. It startled a small service drone hovering nearby, causing it to emit a high-pitched whine as it shifted position in the low-gravity environment. She steadied herself, laughing quietly into her palm, and looked at him with eyes that gleamed with both curiosity and mirth. "So, let me get this straight. There is no ritualized dance, no synchronized movements of grace and elegance, no structure at all. Just this messy, bodily, noisy chaos." He shrugged, trying to appear dignified, though the heat in his cheeks betrayed him. "Well, there's affection involved sometimes, but yes, it's messy and noisy." She let out a little whistle of disbelief and pressed her palms together in mock prayer. "And you call this love?" "It's complicated," he said again, almost pleading for understanding. "Love and reproduction aren't exactly the same, but they overlap." Her ears flicked forward again, betraying her delight at his discomfort. She stepped closer, her presence radiating a curious energy that felt almost gravitational. "Overlap? That sounds terrifyingly inefficient. In my species, we choose partners with extreme precision. Reproduction is almost mathematical. There's no room for this level of chaos." He exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Well, that's humans for you. Inefficient, unpredictable, absurdly emotional." Her eyes widened and she covered her mouth with her hand, trying to suppress another laugh. "Emotional? You mean humans actually feel while doing this? You're telling me there's pleasure involved, that there's joy, delight, exuberance?" He nodded slowly, caught between mortification and fascination that she was taking his words so seriously. "Yes, pleasure, and yes, sometimes joy. It's an experience that combines physical, emotional, and sometimes even spiritual aspects." Her ears twitched with what he could only interpret as astonishment. "Spiritual aspects? Oh, that is completely illogical. How can something so chaotic be meaningful on multiple levels?" He chuckled, a nervous sound, and shrugged. It's not supposed to be entirely logical. Humans are emotional creatures. She shook her head, laughing softly. Emotional, chaotic, flailing, bodily, yet meaningful. I'm beginning to think your species is either incredibly brave or utterly insane. Their conversation drew the attention of another crew member who passed by, only to pause mid-step when she saw the alien girl's elongated ears twitching animatedly. Everything okay here?" the crewmate asked, trying not to laugh. "Yes," she said, her voice still rich with incredulity. "Everything is astonishingly okay. I am merely absorbing this human method of reproduction." The crewmate blinked, gave a nervous chuckle, and walked away muttering something about the captain's briefing on cultural sensitivity. The alien girl turned back to him, eyes wide and shimmering with fascination. "You humans, you actually manage to make this fun." "Some of us do," he admitted, a faint grin appearing despite himself. "Though I'm sure not all humans approach it with enthusiasm." Enthusiasm. Her laugh was musical, ringing through the observation deck and carrying over the soft hum of the ship's engines. "You must be joking. This is absurdly courageous." He groaned softly, sinking onto the bench against the railing. "I can't tell if you're impressed or horrified." "I am both," she said, nodding earnestly. "And yet I am fascinated, completely fascinated." She leaned on the railing, peering at him with those intense, luminous eyes that seemed capable of unraveling the mysteries of entire star systems. "I must learn everything. Show me again in diagrams if you will. I need to understand this human chaos." He swallowed hard and gestured toward the ship's science bay. "Diagrams, you say? That might be safer." She clapped her hands with delight, the long tips of her ears brushing her shoulders. "Yes, safer for me, yes, but also for you. I shall absorb knowledge in the least dangerous way possible." And so, amid the quiet hum of the starship gliding through the velvet blackness of interstellar space, their lessons began. Holographic models shimmered into existence, rotating and folding in complex geometries as she studied them with intense scrutiny. He tried to explain the basic principles, fumbling with terminology and gestures, while she interrupted constantly with incredulous exclamations and playful mockery. "What is this for?" she asked, pointing to an animated model of cellular fusion. "Is this really necessary? Must it look like such an explosive mess?" "It's biology," he said weakly. "Sometimes messy, sometimes awkward, always surprising." "Surprising." Her laugh carried across the lab. "Yes, that is an understatement. I am scandalized, amazed, and thoroughly entertained all at once." By the time the ship's artificial gravity gently pulsed to simulate a minor course correction, they were both laughing, leaning against a console, their conversation punctuated by his embarrassed explanations and her sharp, witty commentary. A small service drone hovered nearby, scanning their gestures with incomprehensible curiosity, as though unsure whether to catalog the process scientifically or simply to flee the scene. "I must confess," she said, her ears tilting forward as if to punctuate her sincerity, "I did not expect human reproduction to involve so much humor. Yet here I am, laughing uncontrollably. How peculiar that something so unstructured can be so entertaining." He smiled, shaking his head. "That's humans for you. Completely unpredictable, often ridiculous, but occasionally unexpectedly delightful." Her eyes softened, the amusement in them mingling with something warmer, something that transcended mere curiosity. "Unexpectedly delightful, yes. Perhaps that is what I shall remember most. Not the chaos, not the flailing, not even the absurdity, but the way it makes you feel. That humans can feel this deeply and yet still laugh at themselves." He looked at her, a faint grin tugging at the corners of his mouth, and realized that perhaps the lesson wasn't only about him teaching her. Perhaps she, with her delicate ears and sharp mind, was teaching him too, that astonishment could coexist with humor, and that laughter could make even the most uncomfortable truths easier to bear. And so the night stretched on, punctuated by holographic models, mock demonstrations, and bursts of laughter. The stars outside the observation deck continued their silent glide across the cosmos, oblivious to the small, chaotic, and profoundly human moment unfolding within the starship. A moment that would linger in memory far longer than any lesson plan, far longer than the light years of space they traversed. By the time she finally leaned back, brushing her hair from her face and letting her long ears flick lazily, she whispered almost to herself, "I do not understand humans, but I like them, perhaps more than I ought." He chuckled softly, exhaling in relief and amusement. "Well, you're in good company. Most of us don't understand ourselves either." And with that, the first lessons of laughter, wonder, and interspecies curiosity had begun, marking the start of a journey neither of them would soon forget. The ship's corridors hummed with a quiet, mechanical rhythm, the kind that made even the smallest footstep echo like a drumbeat across polished metal. She walked them with careful precision, her long ears angled slightly forward as if catching whispers of the ship itself. There was something endlessly amusing about the way humans moved through space. Gravity, artificial though it was, seemed to confound them constantly. They shuffled, they stumbled, they gestured wildly while speaking, all while pretending that they were fully in control. She, of course, glided, every movement deliberate, almost effortless. A dance of... "You exaggerate," she said, lightly tapping a fingertip against the holographic model. "Though I do enjoy the visceral reaction it elicits." The drone suddenly projected a detailed model of a human heart, its chambers pulsing in simulated rhythm. She tilted her head, squinting at the flickering hologram. "And this is how you sustain life, with such irregular motion." He hesitated. "Irregular, yes, but resilient. The human body has a way of adapting." She nodded, her long ears vibrating slightly with amusement. Adaptation, chaos made functional, truly inspiring. Perhaps this is why humans reproduce with such energetic improvisation. Your biology is prepared for surprises. He laughed softly. "I think that's one way to put it." She paced slowly, contemplating the holographic projections. "Tell me," she said, her voice taking on a tone of mock seriousness, "if humans are so adaptable, why do you spend so much time panicking over minor inconveniences? A falling tray of tools, a loose panel, an accidental collision with a colleague." "Because we're also highly emotional," he said, raising his hands in surrender. Her laughter rang out again, musical and unrestrained. "Emotional, chaotic, resilient. Yes, I am beginning to see the pattern. Humans are like living experiments in improvisation, constantly testing limits while simultaneously complaining about them." He shook his head, smiling despite himself. "That's a fair assessment." She leaned closer, lowering her voice to something that bordered on conspiratorial. "Do all humans display this delightful unpredictability?" "Mostly," he admitted, "though some are less entertaining than others." Her ears flicked forward, twitching like delicate instruments of perception. "Then it is up to the observer to distinguish between the amusing specimens and the dull ones." Fascinating. And here I thought interstellar anthropology would be dry work. Instead, I find laughter, bewilderment, and endless delight. A console beeped, indicating a new message. She ignored it, turning back to the human. "Tell me more. Show me another example of this adaptive chaos. Another demonstration, if you will." He groaned, rubbing his forehead. "Another demonstration. I fear that the crew will start avoiding us entirely if we keep this up." "Then it is a sign," she said, tilting her head, "that the universe has prepared a perfect stage for your species' absurd brilliance, and I intend to witness it fully." A nearby robotic assistant, ever literal, piped up. "Observation noted. Human behavior continues to defy logical prediction. Probability of accurate forecasting, negligible." Her laughter rang out again, echoing off the polished metal walls. "Exactly. Negligible prediction, perfect. The cosmos itself conspires to amuse me." Hours passed in this rhythm. punctuated by holographic demonstrations, pointed questions, and bursts of laughter that seemed almost physical, vibrating against the ship's bulkheads. He explained concepts she had already misinterpreted multiple times, and she questioned each with gleeful incredulity. She poked at floating representations of bones, muscles, and even neural pathways, each time eliciting an explanation that attempted both clarity and modesty, though mostly failing at modesty. Eventually, she paused, resting her elbows on a console and letting her long ears droop in mock exhaustion. "I am overwhelmed," she said softly, yet exhilarated. "I did not know learning could feel so entertaining." He nodded, leaning against the opposite console, smiling. "It's part of being human. We stumble through life, make mistakes, laugh at ourselves, and somehow manage to survive." Her eyes gleamed, reflecting the holographic models swirling before them. Stumbling, laughing, surviving, yes. Perhaps the greatest lesson of all is not the knowledge itself, but the manner in which it is acquired. Humans may be chaotic, emotional, inefficient, and absurd, yet there is undeniable beauty in it, and I find it irresistibly entertaining. A soft alert sounded, signaling an incoming transmission from the bridge. She straightened immediately, her poise returning as her curiosity sharpened. Duty calls, it seems. Yet I am grateful for this diversion. The study of human chaos is more captivating than I anticipated. He laughed, shaking his head. "I think we both underestimated just how much fun this could be." She inclined her head, eyes sparkling with amusement and genuine intrigue. "Fun, yes, and enlightening. I am learning more about your species in one day than I have in my entire preparation for this mission. Perhaps the universe enjoys irony." He chuckled. "Or perhaps it enjoys watching you struggle to remain dignified while uncovering all our absurdities." Her laughter echoed once more, the sound carrying the strange warmth that only laughter shared between two very different beings could have. And as they turned toward the observation deck to glimpse the endless stars beyond, she whispered almost to herself, "I do not understand humans, and yet I love to watch them." The bridge of the starship smelled faintly of ozone and polished metal, an aroma she found oddly comforting despite its sterility. She leaned against the railing, her long ears angled toward the ceiling, catching every faint mechanical hum, every soft click of consoles, every barely perceptible vibration through the deck plating. Humans called it the bridge, a place where decisions were made, signals monitored, and the vastness of space was rendered legible through screens and instruments. To her, it was a theater of chaos disguised as order, populated by creatures that teetered between brilliance and absurdity. "Observe," she said, her voice low, musical with a teasing edge. "Here is where the humans make their decisions. Watch closely. Their logic is fascinatingly erratic." He followed a few steps behind, rolling his eyes and muttering something about teaching her subtlety being a lost cause. "Erratic," he said, feigning indignation. "It's called multitasking. We can handle multiple systems at once, unlike some species I know." Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Ah, so this is what you call competence in chaos. Remarkable." And yet, she paused, leaning forward to inspect a blinking console. "There is much room for error. Observe the human in the center." She pointed toward a young officer typing rapidly on a terminal. "He believes he is controlling the navigation. In reality, he is improvising, a dance of uncertainty masked by confidence." He sighed, exhaling through his nose, and tried to suppress a smile. "That's not improvisation, it's training. Years of experience. He knows exactly what he's doing." She raised an eyebrow, her long ears twitching. "Experience or illusion of control, often indistinguishable in your species, yes. How entertaining." A sudden alarm beeped, and lights flickered briefly across the bridge, turning the polished metal floor into a staccato of shadow and illumination. She jumped slightly, more in surprise than fear, and her ears twitched in irritation at the interruption. The humans scrambled, leaping over consoles and shouting terms that sounded to her like a mixture of arcane incantations and incomprehensible abbreviations. "Emergency?" she asked, her tone curious rather than alarmed. "Minor," he said, attempting to sound authoritative while secretly checking the readings on his wrist monitor. "Just a sensor malfunction, nothing catastrophic." She tilted her head, studying him with an expression that was part amusement, part incredulity. "Nothing catastrophic, yet here you are, running about like startled rodents, gesturing wildly and shouting. Is this normal?" "It's called urgency," he said. "We respond faster when we think something might go wrong." Her lips curved in a teasing smile. "Response speed under duress, fascinating. I should add it to my notes on human behavior. Observe, chaos, noise, adrenaline, and yet still functionality. Marvelous." Another crew member tripped over a loose cable and flailed, narrowly avoiding the edge of the bridge's console. She covered her mouth to stifle a laugh, but her ears twitched audibly, betraying her amusement. "They call this a bridge crew, yes. Perhaps the term should be acrobatic chaos ensemble." He groaned. "You're enjoying this far too much." "I am studying," she said, eyes gleaming. "Observation requires detachment, but detachment does not preclude appreciation. Observe the young navigator. He is panicked, yet precise. There is humor in the tension." A robotic assistant whirred past, carrying a data pad. She tilted her head, her long ears flicking in curiosity. "And this one, mechanically perfect, utterly devoid of panic, yet somehow less entertaining. Humans and their machines, so predictable, so devoid of whimsy." "Whimsy?" he asked, incredulous. "We're talking about a starship here. Whimsy." The observation deck was quiet, though the low hum of the starship thrummed like a living heartbeat beneath her feet. She leaned against the railing, long ears tilting forward with delicate curiosity, eyes fixed on the endless expanse of black punctuated by distant, glittering suns. Her companion stood a few steps behind, arms crossed, trying to appear dignified while suppressing a smirk that threatened to escape every few seconds. "I do not understand why your species insists on making everything so complicated," she said, voice musical, tinged with mock exasperation. "Even simple tasks seem to require layers of unnecessary effort. Opening a hatch, for example. One could simply push or rotate or even teleport the contents of the room. Yet here you are, performing rituals with panels, levers, and codes. What is the point of all this drama?" He shrugged, glancing at the hatch she had been examining. "We call it security. It's not about drama. It's about ensuring the right sequence, avoiding accidents, preventing unauthorized access." "Accidents?" she asked, arching a delicate brow. "Your species is constantly on the verge of them anyway. Is this a display of futility disguised as order?" "Sometimes it feels that way," he admitted. "But then again, a few precautions save lives, mostly." Her lips curved in an amused smile. "Mostly," she repeated, and her ears twitched in rhythmic agreement. "I see. Chaos mitigated by ritualized gestures. Fascinating. And yet," she leaned closer, eyes sparkling, "the chaos always leaks through." "Interlude?" he repeated, smiling despite himself. "You mean chaos observation session." "Observation session," she corrected softly, a hint of amusement in her tone. "Every word matters." As they walked toward the bridge, she tilted her head, studying him with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. "Tell me, human, how do you endure such contradictions daily? Chaos, order, laughter, panic, brilliance, absurdity. How do you not unravel?" He smiled, gesturing at the corridor stretching before them. "We adapt, we improvise, we learn to laugh at the chaos and hope for the best." She nodded slowly, ears flicking in thoughtful amusement. "Adaptation, improvisation, laughter. Yes, these are the hallmarks of your species, and yet somehow I find it comforting. Perhaps it is proof that even the most illogical creatures can create moments of beauty." A small service robot wheeled past, bumping gently against her ankle. She looked down, then back at him, raising an eyebrow. Even your machines are slightly unpredictable. Perfection eludes you at every turn. That's intentional, he said with a wry grin. Keeps everyone on their toes. She laughed, the sound carrying a strange warmth across the metallic corridor. Yes, chaos, unpredictability, and amusement. Humans are quite extraordinary. They reached the bridge, where the crew was immersed in their tasks, screens flickering with star maps and system diagnostics. She stepped onto the deck, ears flicking toward every sound, every flicker of light absorbing it all with sharp, playful attention. And here, she said softly, voice almost reverent, is where your species' ingenuity and absurdity converge. This is the stage upon which the human spirit dances. He glanced at her, noticing the mixture of awe and teasing amusement in her gaze. Dances, huh? Yes, she said, tilting her head with a soft laugh. A dance of chaos, courage, and cleverness, and I am captivated. A minor alert sounded on a nearby console. She glanced at it, then back at him. Another small disruption, no doubt. Yet you handle it with grace and panicked efficiency. Marvelous, I am learning much today. He shook his head, smiling at her words. Learning about us is apparently hazardous to your perception of order. Order, she said softly, ears twitching, is a relative concept. Your species has redefined it entirely, and I find it most entertaining. They stood there for a long moment, the low hum of the engines blending with the distant chorus of the ship's mechanical heartbeat. She studied the bridge, the crew, the glowing displays, and then him, a soft smile tugging at her lips. I do not understand humans fully, she said, and yet I am grateful for every absurd, chaotic, brilliant second I observe them. Truly remarkable creatures. He chuckled, exhaling with relief and amusement. Well, I'm glad someone appreciates it. Her ears flicked lazily, a subtle nod of acknowledgement. I do, more than you may suspect. And for the first time that day, the stars outside seemed to wink back at them, distant witnesses to the peculiar, unpredictable, and quietly delightful dance of two very different beings aboard a vessel, gliding through the endless dark of space. The corridors were quieter than usual, the ship's usual hum subdued as if holding its breath. She walked slowly, her long ears flicking attentively with every vibration of the deck beneath her feet, her eyes catching the subtle glow of console lights. The vast expanse of space outside the viewport was speckled with distant stars, but for once, they seemed less important than the small, chaotic human world she had spent so much time observing. She paused mid-step, letting her gaze drift over the crew working with their usual blend of flustered urgency and methodical precision. I had not anticipated, she said softly, voice carrying a melodic lilt, that observing a single species could provide so much insight. Humor, chaos, adaptability all intertwined. Her companion, walking just behind her, shook his head with a grin. You've been taking notes like a scholar and laughing like a tourist. It's been quite a day. She smiled, ears tilting forward with a delicate grace. A day unlike any I have ever experienced. I had expected to analyze, to catalog, to learn, but instead I have witnessed life itself, messy, imperfect, yet endlessly fascinating. They paused at the observation deck, looking out over the stars. He leaned on the railing beside her, attempting to adopt a calm posture, though his smile betrayed amusement. So, what have you learned? She tilted her head, long hair brushing her shoulders, and considered. I have learned that humans are unpredictable, chaotic in all things, from movement to thought to emotion. Yet within that chaos is resilience, brilliance, and a certain charm I could not have predicted. He laughed softly. Predictable I am not, I'll give you that. Her ears twitched with the faintest flicker of amusement. Indeed. And yet I have also learned that your species can teach humility, patience, and the beauty of imperfection. I came here expecting to be the teacher, but I find myself the student as well. He looked at her, genuinely intrigued. The student. Yes, she said, eyes glinting. In every misstep, every laugh, every flailing attempt to navigate systems you barely control, There is a lesson, not in mechanics, not in methodology, but in living. To endure chaos, to embrace uncertainty, to find joy amid the unpredictable. This is something humans understand instinctively. A console beeped nearby, and a holographic display projected the ship's course and diagnostics. She reached out, tracing a path through the glowing projections with a delicate finger. Even in navigation, there is creativity. Decisions made with limited information, improvisation under pressure, collaboration under scrutiny, all of it exhilarating to witness. He chuckled. You've spent days watching us bumble around and you call it exhilarating. She laughed long and soft, the sound echoing against the bulkheads. Bumbling, perhaps. Yet bumble with intention, with courage, with humor. Yes, exhilarating. Your species embraces absurdity and turns it into survival. That is remarkable. A sudden alert indicated a minor hull fluctuation. Crew members scurried efficiently, correcting the anomaly before it became a problem. She tilted her head, ears flicking, and watched with fascination. Efficiency in response to chaos, an elegant dance. And yet, she said, voice dropping to a teasing whisper, the chaos remains, as though your species would die without it. He shook his head, laughing despite the tension. We thrive on it, it keeps us sharp, and entertained, apparently. Yes, she said softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Entertainment, insight, growth, your chaos carries purpose. I have seen it shape individuals, unite crews, inspire laughter and admiration. I have also seen it change me. He glanced at her, curious. Change you? Yes, she said, eyes reflecting the stars beyond. I came to study humans with an expectation of detachment, of analytical observation. I expected to catalog, to measure, to quantify. Instead, I have learned empathy, patience, amusement, and, dare I say it, affection. I understand your species more deeply, not because of your efficiency, but because of your chaos. Because of the way you endure, stumble, laugh, and rise again. He smiled softly, seeing the subtle warmth in her expression. That's more than most humans can say about themselves. Her lips curved in a delicate smile. Perhaps. But now I see it. And it has changed me. I no longer wish merely to observe. I wish to participate, to carry forward the lessons, the laughter, the beauty of imperfection. It has given me perspective, and a certain joy I did not anticipate. A low hum vibrated through the deck as the ship adjusted its trajectory, gliding smoothly through the dark expanse. She turned slightly, eyes fixed on him. And you, human, what have you learned from this collaboration? He laughed softly, scratching the back of his neck. I've learned that aliens can be terrifyingly perceptive, also that I can't keep anything private for more than 10 minutes ever. And maybe that laughter is the best way to survive everything, even interstellar bureaucracy. She tilted her head, a soft laugh escaping her lips. Wise observations indeed. Humor, survival, resilience. You understand yourselves more than you realize. Perhaps that is why the universe allows you to flourish, despite the chaos. The corridor lights shifted as they moved, casting elongated shadows that intertwined like threads in a tapestry. She paused at a viewport, gazing at a distant nebula, its colors swirling in improbable patterns. Even the stars seemed to mirror your species, unpredictable, vibrant, sometimes chaotic, yet endlessly beautiful. He leaned beside her, following her gaze. Maybe that's the lesson, not just how we survive, but how we live, chaos and all. She smiled, ears twitching slightly with amusement. Yes, chaos and all, and now I feel complete. Not in the sense of knowledge alone, but in understanding.